Guys, how's everyone today? I hope everybody's doing great on a Monday noon. We have with us today our Workforce Solutions. We have Suzanne Sinke, who is going to be, we're kind of like switching. We planned on doing getting a job today, but we're going to be doing once you've landed the job and how to keep the job. And so that's what Suzanne is going to be doing today. And then we'll do the other one on Wednesday. Before we get started, make sure if you need attendance credit, you go to the library website and head and register under the events section. All right. Well, coming to you from my phone today, Suzanne, I'm going to go ahead and let you have the floor. So
Uh,
thank you.
Well, thank you, Cindy. I appreciate it. Hi, everybody. My name is Suzanne Sinke. I'm from Workforce Solutions of Central Texas, and we have a program that's called SOAR, and that is Student Occupation Awareness and Recognition. Now, we do talk to students of different ages. We range all the way up from junior high all the way up to college now. And so we talk about those subject matters that are hopefully going to help pave a little bit smoother of a path for you, whether you're going straight into your first job. Maybe it's not your first job, but it's just another experience that you're going to be having. And we're trying to make that just a smooth transition for you. And so what I'm going to bring to you today is, hey, I've been hired, now what? So it's you're hired, now what? And it is, getting off on the right foot when you first started with that company, that organization. And I am trying to get my share. And Cindy, if you wouldn't mind, just let me know that you see my presentation. Oh, okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so you're hired. Now what? Getting off on the right foot. That's ultimately what the thing is. So like Cindy had mentioned, the next couple of days, you're going to be talking about the types of things employers are searching for, those different qualities, otherwise known as marketable skills. So that'll be on another day. And then also, job seeking, all those things about your resumes and your interviews and what's important and things to think about. But a lot of us really don't think about beyond that. And we really need to. We need to figure out what it is that's going to happen, what kind of attitude that we actually need to have, and performance expectations that are needed at the workplace. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go over a few things that you'll basically come across when you start a new job. Meeting with your manager, being able to take on responsibilities, those rules and policies that everybody has. I mean, everywhere from junior high up. So a workplace is no different. Being able to stay positive and how the difference is that it can make for you. Listening, which is always important. Getting along, handling conflict, and just starting fresh. Okay, it's we'll go over the concept of starting fresh at a new job. So first, meeting with your manager. You have an opportunity when meeting with your manager, they're going to basically tell you all those mistakes to avoid. But first off, they're going to let you learn about the organization. Okay, the things that maybe you weren't aware of ahead of time, they're going to tell you, what they're all about, their mission, what is their primary goal. Okay, it's certainly good to have that knowledge ahead of time when you're going in for an interview, but if not, they're going to go over and ensure that their employees are aware of that. What is our mission? What's our vision for this company? How do you know when you've met some type of success in the job that you're doing? You've got to have some type of measurement to know that you have succeeded. So they're going to tell you, basically, they're going to give you the information you need. They're going to give you the tools and any of the assets that you need to primarily do that job. Okay, but ultimately it's all on you. You have to take it like a bull by the horns. You have to be the one with the great work ethic moving along, but they're going to give you what you need to basically get started. And then meet timeline for projects. All of these things, when you think about it, wrapped up together, are really going to it's kind of like a first impression, okay? A first impression for a date. You can make it or break it in like 7 seconds, right? Well, the same thing when you go into an organization as your brand new job, you go in there, you're kind of setting the tone for what people are going to think you're all about. Okay, so you want to showcase yourself in a good light. You want to show that, pardon me, that you can do that job, be successful, and meet the timelines that they've set for you. Okay, so first off, that's the primary goal. The boss wants the job done because they want it productive so they can make profit ultimately. So that's kind of what that's about. Now, when you do start a new job, how can you showcase yourself or show initiative or responsibility at a new job? Okay, so you want to think about that. There's many different things. What might you be able to think? Just kind of think for yourself for a second. What are those things that you can initiate and showcase responsibility at your new workplace? So you might want to think about taking responsibility, and that involves showing up on time. I mean, it doesn't get easier than that, okay? Show up on time. Learn your job. Again, they're going to give you the information you need, tell you what's expected. If they haven't, you need to ask, and they're going to give you the tools that you need. It's your job to learn it, okay? So you want to be proactive with that. Proactive with the job in general and also with learning it. Be honest in everything that you do. If you don't understand something, say it. Ultimately, it might mess something up down the road if you don't understand something. Speak up. Sometimes it might cost extra money if you haven't said something early enough. So, consider yourself on a production line. If there's like 10 people and the third person doesn't say something and it kept going, you could maybe need to have to throw all that away because it kept going, versus being able to possibly fix it, and be able to continue with that product, or just only waste so few. So be honest up front, own your mistakes. So when that happens with the production line, own your mistakes. You may be saving that company a lot of money being able to do that. And another thing, it kind of shows a little bit of trust that they can take in what you say. They know that they have comfort in the fact that if you're aware of something, you'll mention it. Now, if it were you and it was your products on the line, your personal stuff that you own, wouldn't you want someone to speak up before wasting everything, right? Well, it's the same thing in a job. They want you to be productive, but certainly not at the cost of having some bad quality products, okay? So own your mistakes up front. Be honest when they happen. Earlier is, better. Volunteer to help. You can be that person that they know that they can depend on if needed. You're willing to do it because you know what? It's not just to get the pat on the back, even though that is a nice thing to get, but it's because it's the right thing to do. You're putting the company first, you're putting your teams first over yourself. So volunteer to help and just have a great work ethic. Certainly, I think everybody has a good idea of work ethic, but you have to know how massively important the concept is in a job. Pardon me, I'm so sorry, it's allergies. They have to know that they can depend on you, okay? That you are going to do a really good job. You're going to always strive to do the right thing, have integrity when doing it. And I think we know that from Facebook, doing the right thing even when no one's looking, right? So that's the concept of taking responsibility. Now, rules and policies, we have them again, everything from junior high and up. That you want to be punctual, meet and exceed expectations that they have set in the beginning. You want to study your employee handbook, because almost every job will give you a handbook that's got those local for their office, their job, the rules and policies that you need to follow. Everything from cell phone use, dress code, email usage. Maybe they don't want you to send out emails outside of your organization. So you want to pay attention to those and know them ahead of time. Because if something happens, you really can't say, I didn't know, because they gave you an employee handbook. Okay, so take a look at it. If it's a new job, sometimes just observing your surroundings and those people that are working with you can help you fill in the blanks of maybe those policies you're not aware of, or allows you the idea of questions maybe you need to ask. Okay. And stay within those boundaries that they set for you. Now, staying positive. This is one of my favorite things after I get rid of the frog in my throat. So, staying positive, being my favorite thing, I believe it will just change your life personally and in the workplace. But here's how positivity can certainly affect you in the workplace. Be that positivity influencer, so you're gonna like have it go like wildfire. If you're on a team, it's gonna run through, because we certainly know negativity can do that, right? It goes rampant. Somebody walks in the room and you're like, oh my goodness, I got to deal with this person today. Well, the same thing can happen with the positivity. Be that person that can help set that tone, that standard. When you have that positive attitude, it allows you to be a little bit more creative as a group. If it ran through the whole team, that team as a whole can be so much more creative, so much more flexible. You ultimately are more productive. Being positive, you want to accept challenges. You know, you're not like being negative about it. It's like, sure, just tell me how to get started. I'll be happy to do it. Avoid gossip, because that can't go anywhere good. You know, gossip, whether you're the one saying it or the one unfortunately being discussed about, it really can't go anywhere that's going to be positive or helpful for the workplace. And you have to look beyond yourself. It has to be what's better for the team, what's better for the group, and ultimately what's better for the organization. And spending time, number one, wasting it away with gossip, that's not good. But certainly the huge gap it's going to send between people that are having to work together, it won't make it a fluid, pleasant, environment having that between you. It'd be like the giant white elephant in the room. You just can't get past it, and it will affect everything. So really, you don't have to come out and say to someone, stop, I am not going to talk about this. You don't have to be that dramatic about it if they're talking gossip. To say, you know what, I've got some stuff to take care of, and just step away. Don't be a part of it. Some people might actually take your lead and follow suit. Okay, and the team will be better off for it ultimately. Complaining sometimes can grow like a snowball effect going downhill. I mean, it will just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and nothing's satisfying. When you have a positive attitude, it's not that you have some fake idea of everything is coming up roses, there's never anything wrong. It's just how you react to it. What's your perception of what's happening? I heard someone say something I thought was really simple but profound at the same time, and it was in another video, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he said, hey, the sun shines on everybody. The rain, it's gonna fall. You can't necessarily stop it. It's gonna hit everyone too, but it's not trying to stop the rain. That's the important thing. It's how do you react to it? It's not the end of the world. So it's not necessarily trying to be, Sally Sunshine or Pollyanna or whatever kind of example you want to use. But it's just a matter of how do you look at things? Try to look at the better side of it. It's like, okay, so man, I can't believe I failed that test. This is awful. Well, at least I know better next time what I really need to study for the big exam. It's just how you look at it, and it really can change many, many things. Affirmations on the slide, it's a matter of you say something because you're making yourself say something daily. That's a daily affirmation. I'm going to go in this with a positive attitude. I'm going to do well today. So then hopefully it becomes a habit. With that habit, it's going to become natural. And that's ultimately what you want to get to. There was a university that had done research where they had their students every day for a month say some type of positive daily affirmation. It had to be different every day. They had to make themselves do it. So in the beginning, they, again, like I said, they had to make themselves do it to start that habit. At the end of the time, they actually seeked that information out without even being required to. It's just how you make yourself look at life, okay? So that can change your personal life as well as your work life and make it much, much more pleasant. And again, it can help you as a team. If everybody were like that, everybody's more adaptable, everybody's more creative and flexible and more productive, because you don't have to worry about how the other person's going to react to something maybe you were just brainstorming about. They're not going to, belittle you or anything. There's just a free flow of communication. And with that, again, ultimately productivity, and the boss is jumping up for joy in the background. So it's good for everybody. Now, when you are starting that new job, nobody knows everything when they first start. Mistakes are going to happen. Again, it's all in how you take it. But first, don't assume that you always know what you're doing. Don't assume that you always have the right answer. Seek that information, listen to others, and that's truly going to be very important for you. You do want to listen because, even if you had another job that's very, very similar at another organization, they may have done it one way, and that's how you know it, and you know it perfectly. But now you've come to another organization that has a reason for doing it slightly different. And so you don't want to argue about it. Find out. You're new. Why should you argue, right? Sit back and find out and see how they do something. And at some point in time, when it's right, when you feel that people are willing to hear something, just say, you know what if we did this? Is there a reason why you don't do that? You can always question things respectfully. And they may clear it up like that. And you'll say, okay, I see why you're not doing it. Great. But don't assume that you always know the right way to do things. You want to try to get all that information up front. When you selectively listen, you're going to miss some things. So you really want to listen to those that have that knowledge. Ask questions when you need it, because this is part of that proactive. This is part of learning your job. If you have a question, you need to ask. Be open, just to different ways of doing things, okay? And then follow up. How did I do? Is this what you were ultimately wanting? If you don't follow up, how do you know it's exactly what they want? Because they're not touching base with you every single second, okay? They kind of send you kind of like birdie, now fly, you're out of the nest, go ahead. And a lot of times that if you're not sure 100% that something's exactly the way it's supposed to be, just ask. I completed this. Could you just take a look at it and see, is this how you wanted it? When they say yes, well, give yourself that pat on the back. That's fine. But at least moving forward, you don't have to worry about it. You've got the information you needed. Now, I think for me, this was difficult. When you talk about getting along, that's not the difficult part. But when you start a new job, sometimes it's very difficult to want to jump in there and act like you've been there a year, because that's not going to come across sincerely. That's going to come across possibly fake. So I was always a little kind of intimidated with that, until I started realizing, you know what, I'm here just like they are. If I have a question, I'm going to ask, because you're there for a reason. You were hired because they want you there. So hold your head up high, go in with that confidence, and then get along with others, because that's going to go all along with it. Okay, so you want to build a relationship with your supervisor, be able to feel free to discuss things. Don't be so timid that even there's questions you have, you are too worried to ask because you're new. If you don't ask, clearly you will not know. So you need to ask. Get along with your peers. Sometimes it's not the easiest. We don't always like every single person we work with. We don't like every single person we're in classes with. But bottom line is, you still have to do it, unless you don't want to be able to buy groceries. You don't want to be able to pay rent. You have to get along. And sometimes, to not have that great big white elephant I was talking about in the room, to not have that between peers, you want to find some way to get along, even if it's a one small common thread. That's something to build from. Find that. Be willing to communicate. You don't have to go to lunch with them. You don't have to do after hours outings with them, but you have to respect them and they need to respect you as well. And being able to get along and work well with them, sometimes you need to be the one to start it. Maybe somebody else doesn't have that knowledge or that um, enthusiasm, I suppose I could say, to be able to get along so everything works well. Because remember, we got to get beyond ourselves and remember it's for the team, it's for the company, and ultimately the productivity for that company to succeed. So we need to do that. When you deal with customers, talk with them. You don't have to be, I've had some situations, let me tell you, I'm a little critical sometimes when I go into some of these, and we're talking anything from a cashier to a waitress to somebody on the phone to somebody that runs a business. I am very critical if they don't treat you with good customer service, and you got to learn what that is. And that's again respecting the customer just like you would, like we said, a coworker. You need to talk with them, find out what their needs are, ask questions, and then provide for them. So certainly you have, the only way you can do that is talk with them. I mean, you cannot just be standing there and expect to exceed expectations when you know nothing. So you need to be able to talk amongst your coworkers and your clients. Practice those good social skills. What do you think those are? That would be like what? Communicating with them, being able to verbally communicate, watch those facial expressions you give, practice those good social skills. Communicate with them, listen. If you don't listen, you won't know what they're needing. Balance your work life with your personal life. I'm a little bit, I'm not great at this. I'm a little bit of a hypocrite. Sometimes I do a little bit too much work at home trying to like have quality time, and it doesn't always work, okay? But I'm usually doing something I enjoy. But you really do, and I need to perfect it. Work on that fine line where you're not carrying over unnecessary items to either side. If you do, they will start to negatively affect personal life into work. Sometimes we have things happen. Maybe you need to communicate with your supervisor and say, I've got this going on. I'm really not 100% here today. May I take some time off? Or is there a time where it would fit into the schedule that I could? Sometimes you do need to relate that because there are personal things that happen in our life that really are, something we have to handle right now or are a little overbearing on our mind. Same thing with work. Hey, hubby, sorry, but I have to get this done. This is going to affect my coworker, them being able to do their job. Okay, sometimes, but for the most part, you really do need to try to find that fine line so you can have a time to recharge and relax, and then at work be able to concentrate on work. Okay, so that's kind of how that works together. And handling conflict, nobody really likes having to do this. And again, all the way from junior high up, I know that there are always times that we have to handle some type of conflict. But the biggest thing to know is, and this is even if you're a seasoned work professional, aggression never works well when it's responded with aggression. Having the two. If you respond aggressively to somebody that's confronted you about something, it's never made it better. Now, it's not that they're not in the wrong, but it's never made it any better. Okay, so trying to, lessen the level of, chaos it could be creating. You don't want to be a part of that. Just, say, hey, can we talk about this later? Certainly, there's times when you need to do something like that. You need to recognize that there's a conflict. I don't think it's always that difficult to do that, but sometimes it might get over our head. But recognize that there's a conflict. If there's a resolution, just say, wait, this isn't what's happening. Try to fix it in a good tone. Try to fix it in the air of positivity where you're actually trying to do what's best and still respect that person enough so to hear them. Because if you're not listening to where they have a problem, then you're just giving a speech. Okay, you've got to have that two-way communication to actually understand what exactly is the problem. Because how are you going to fix it? How are you going to find a resolution if you don't actually know? So you do need to listen to the other person. Be assertive in a sense of being part of it. It's like, don't stand back so passively and just let it happen. Just say, hey, let's talk about this. Let's calm this down right now. We don't need to do this. We're better than that. Do what you have to. Make some suggestions, because conflict, like I said, is never good. I mean, it really, and I'm not talking about disagreements. Those are fine. You can disagree with anybody about anything respectively, offering good criticisms. Conflict is where there's some aggression, there's somebody coming at you, and this is affecting the work. Okay, this is where you really need to pay attention to, do I need to give this the type of time that it deserves? Well, if it's conflict like that, it needs to be put aside, because it's not going to help the productivity of the job. Okay, so you need to be a part of trying to fix it, not fuel the flames. Okay. And ultimately, I'd mentioned in the very beginning, we were talking about whether you're starting a brand new job, or maybe you're going into another job. You're deciding to either move up or move completely laterally to something totally different. Start fresh. You can create the person that you want to be each job you go to. You can learn from one and say, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually associate with different people that are positive, that want to do a good job. So let go of the past. Decide who you want to be at that workplace. Do you want to be someone that they're wanting to speak to, that they're wanting to go to? What if they're looking for another supervisor? What if they're looking to promote? You want to be that person that they can depend on, that they can trust in what you say, and that you're getting along well with others. Because certainly they're not going to have a supervisor that doesn't get along well. I mean, that's just setting themselves up for disaster, right? So be that person that they can look to. Know who you want to associate with that's going to help that. Seek out those positive people. Work on building those healthy relationships. And it's not just worker to supervisor, it's coworker to coworker. Now, those relationships might differ a little bit, but it doesn't mean that they can't be good relationships. Like, your supervisor, maybe you're not going to just run out and go do something on the town that night together. Maybe as a group, but maybe not just the two of y'all, because maybe it's just a little bit of, need a little more separation with supervisor and coworker. But the coworkers can. So being able to know where that fine line is and build those healthy relationships, it's going to benefit you greatly in the workforce. Okay. But now that's all I have for this presentation. Ultimately, I think the biggest things, if I was to sum this up, I would really have to say, please be positive. Go in with an open mind. Know that you're there for a reason, because they wanted you to be there. So be confident. Hold your head up high and still ask that question. There's nothing to look down upon asking a question if it ultimately it is to get the job done correctly. Okay. Go in there and build good relationships, and your time within that workplace will be very pleasant, or it can be. So that's all I have. Cindy?
Does anyone have any questions?
There are no questions on Facebook right now.
I have some questions.
Okay.
Not here, but
Uh-huh.
I've had other jobs where not so much aggressiveness, but passive aggressiveness. I mean, we can't choose our employee, our coworkers.
Right.
What would be a suggestion? Passive aggressiveness could be anything from, not cooperating or talking to you, or even trying to sabotage you. I mean, it's in many forms. Do you have any suggestions if someone would have a coworker who was passive aggressive?
That's such a good point, because in a lot of jobs, there's almost always someone that's like that. Sometimes it comes across sarcasm too, but the passive aggressive, everything that they're saying is great, but that the words that they're saying, there's a little bit of undermining in there. I would have to say, always try to do the right thing for the right reasons, And I know this might come across badly, but if it's in an email, I save them. I always want to document what I'm doing and why, whether it's for a passive aggressive reason or not, because I know sometimes people are saying things just to say them and pat themselves on the back because they got one over on you. But sometimes it is what you were talking about, a little bit of sabotage too. So I do think having the type of work ethic where you can look yourself in the mirror and know you're proud of that person, that there's nothing anybody can put out there on you that will affect you badly at the workplace. If you do it and do it for the right reasons and you're always trying to do your best, it would really be hard pressed for, a supervisor or ultimately the boss to pinpoint you badly on something. If the intent is there, as long as you've looked at all your resources that you have available to you to learn that job, you've made every effort to get along, to work well with others, and passed information as needed, and ask questions when you need to. You can't necessarily change someone's behavior, but you can make the attempt to be the example. It's just like the gossiping. If you don't go that route, maybe somebody will follow suit. So say the way you would want things said to you. Be that example, and hopefully it will rub off. If you do think that there's a problem, maybe one-on-one wouldn't be such a bad idea. Away from the actual work center. Maybe it's at the workplace, but in another room, break room, or whatever. But just say, I really want to talk to you because I feel like there might be something between us that I would like to have, smoothed up so we can get along a little bit better or feel more comfortable with each other. Maybe it is something that you do need to address, okay, to find out, is there a problem? So, maybe they're sending wrong signals too. It could always be that. Maybe we're sensitive and we're reading the wrong signals. That can happen. So we, again, don't want to assume we know all the right answers. Ask them. Ask them respectfully, the way you would want someone to. And that's how I would probably want to handle that personally.
And it's in that line too. Have you found that, one of the things that might be helpful, I know this has helped a lot, is in a situation where you may think somebody said something and they meant something, to stop, wait, even for a couple of days, think about it.
Oh, right.
See what part I may have played, and I'm always ready for an apology. Like, I'm going to apologize because I know I reacted to something, there's no
and a
right or wrong
sincere apology. Yes,
Yeah.
sincerity. No, and I get you. If it's much more of a bigger type of conflict, not just somebody saying something like, what would we say, snarky or catty type comment, but now it's something where someone's actually coming aggressively to you, either saying something. I definitely think you would want to handle it by making sure you're calm, making sure you say, this is not necessarily the place we want to talk about this right now. Let's talk about this tomorrow, or set a time. And yeah, I do believe giving yourself a chance to be sure what you want to say, because after thinking about it a moment, and again, I've done this, thinking about it a moment, you might realize, okay, well, maybe I might have taken that out of context. Maybe, where you can have a clearer mind about it. Or what about a third party? Maybe you could ask somebody, hey, I perceived that incorrectly. I mean, is that what you thought that they were saying? If there was somebody else around you felt comfortable to talk to about it. Time can certainly help be a diffuser if necessary, kind of like in the ring, go to your separate quarters, we don't need this, because that is only detrimental to the job. And really, again, you've got to pay attention that the job comes first. You are there and getting paid to do the job, not to back and back, little cat fights. It's not what they're paying you for, right? So
do you believe that communication styles makes a difference too, in like one person may communicate a certain way another person may communicate a certain way. And then if you're not familiar with them when you first start a new job, do you have any suggestions on how to find out, like quickly, how to figure out how people communicate?
If you're talking about personal behaviors, how they're communicating and coming across, I think honestly, maybe communicating with someone that you're comfortable with to find out is this the culture of the job? Usually you'll find that out early on. Is this how everybody talks? And let me give an example. When I worked in 911 as a supervisor in 911, you can understand that, everything's emergency. Nobody's calling because they're having a great day, like saying, hey, thank you for being there. Nobody does that. So they're all chaotic phone calls. Everybody reacts to chaos, I think, a little bit differently, and they process it differently. Okay. And sometimes people come across a little bit colder than others. And it's not necessarily their nature. So you don't want to assume, again, in the brand new job, you walk in, you don't want to assume. You have to think about it logically. It's like there's no way they don't like me. I just started. No way. So maybe this is how they are. Now, if they come across negatively to you, of course, maybe that's something you need to address at another time, saying, listen, this isn't respectful. No matter how you look at it, we need to change how we communicate with each other. But maybe that should go through, possibly your supervisor. If you don't feel you can speak one-on-one with somebody, but aggression, I never think you should meet an aggressive behavior, like in your face kind of. I don't think that that's the right time to handle it. I always feel like it's like, hang on, we're better than this. Let's talk about this, because I'm telling you, it's probably just going to be a miscommunication. Let's do it when it's after this, shift we're on. Okay. So certainly, but people definitely respond and actually communicate different. And to be able to recognize that would be important to see as a trend. Are they always like this type concept? Do they mean this negatively? But like I was saying in 911, sometimes it's not how it actually comes out. But you want to look at somebody's, nonverbal cues as well. How are they displaying themselves when they're saying these things? Could you be misinterpreting it? And I'm not trying to put it back on the person every time, but you really do, before you react to something, need to evaluate, is there a chance I could be reading this wrong? Because I'm guilty of it too now and again, being a little too sensitive. So I do try to step back sometimes and think, is it just because I'm being too sensitive? Or was there something there? And after I've thought about it, it's still bothering me. Really, I will go to that person and just say, listen, I wasn't sure about that. I kind of want to talk to you about it because I don't want this between us. So I just kind of want to see where it goes. So is that kind of what you were asking, Cindy?
Yes, that's
Okay.
You come across just every kind of a situation, and when you don't know new staff, it can be it can be pretty rough when you first get started. So
it's like starting a new school. I mean, you're the big cheese in 8th grade, then you go to 9th grade, and then you're the big cheese when you're a senior. Haha, I'm out of here. And you start a new job, and they're like, who is this guy? But it's all how you come across. Be confident, try to help out, do your job, but also be willing to be open-minded, because that place existed there before you got there. Be an added value to the job. And the only way you can do that is understand what the job requires, how you can be of help. You've got to know besides doing my actual job, I know I got hired for this. How can I exceed those expectations? Be that person that they look to, that they're better off having you than not having you. And that's actually going to set the tone for what people think your value is. And I really believe that the outcome of the work product you put out there, people think that about you. If you do a good job, then they're going to think, oh, she works so well. Or if you're always having what I was doing before, the little cat fights, all the time, they're going to say, oh, here comes drama. So you're going to set a standard or a tone for what people are going to think about you early on. Go in there with a great work ethic, willing to listen, be open-minded, do your job, meet your, your timelines, your measurements of success, and you'll grow from there. It just happens.
Lee, are there any other questions?
No.
Okay. Well, Suzanne, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk to us about soft skills, job skills, and getting started with your job. Uh, we truly appreciate Workforce Solutions of Central Texas and, you guys. In fact, I saw Charlie show up briefly coming to talk with us today about, careers
Mhm.
because, when we get started in a new job or when we're looking for a job, communication and talking to people is our way to get the job and keep the job. And
Right.
so we truly appreciate you giving us some tips and some ideas on what you need to do once you first get that job. So,
Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
all righty. Now, tomorrow, guys, wish Charlie would have been here. Tomorrow, we have Workforce Solutions again coming. And I'm not sure, is it getting a job or is it after having a job for a long time?
Honestly, I'm not certain, but I think it's the job seeking portion, I believe.
Okay.
The getting a job.
Okay. All righty. So we will have the wonderful Workforce Solutions coming back tomorrow at noon. So please mark it on your calendar and make sure you come. And we will see you tomorrow and hopefully Wednesday. So everyone have an awesome day today and enjoy our spring weather. So
Thank you,
thank
Cindy.
you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.